are going to be moving forward with this Climate Action Plan grant. And there's a lot of other good updates that we'll get into in the meeting. And so let's get rolling. Don, are you there?
It kind of looked like he was having trouble because I saw him on his phone and he was talking, but we couldn't hear him, but he might have been muted.
He was talking to me because I was like, I can't get in. I can't get in.
Oh,
There.
Can you hear me now?
We can.
yes.
Okay. All right. Good.
Great.
Yes.
Hi, Don.
Hello.
All right. Let's take a quick roll.
Yep. Okay. Good, Dave. I got Lisa. I have Will Powers. Is Will Powers on here? Don't see him yet. Deb Conrad. Nope, not yet. John Bradley.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
See you here. Jennifer
Yes.
is here. Kara,
Yes.
you're here. Okay. The two Matts, Matt Stinchcom, Matt Mercier. Joshua.
Yes.
I see you up there. Yep. Sean Casey.
Here.
Yep. Okay. See you there, Sean. Okay. Stan Yarian.
I see him on.
He's here. Okay. Steve Powers.
Here. Let's see.
You're here. John Leone. He emailed, say he wouldn't be able to be here. Kathy Schneider. I think she was traveling too. Yep. Betsy. Albert is here.
Yeah, that's me, Elizabeth.
Bill Mancini. And Tom Pano.
Yes, I'm here.
You're here. And Laura Canamella. You're on here yet. Okay. I see. I'm here. Brenda, I see you. Denal. Not on here yet. Terrence, I think he was going to come in late.
Yeah, that's what he said to me.
Christina. Lindsay. No, Tara, are you on here? Or Hallie?
I am. Tara's here.
Oh, Tara's here. Okay. That's it. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Don. Thanks all. We are going to jump in. We have minutes we need to adopt. If anyone has any comments.
I have one super tiny edit that just seems like an important point on the minutes. On page 3, under the NYSERDA CEC grants, the total amount of money reported here has both commas and periods in it, and it makes it unclear if it's 2.6 million or 2,000. So I just wanted to make sure that that period that's the second paragraph on the top of the third page gets changed to a comma. It's such a fabulous number. We want to make sure we.
Yeah, it is 2.6 million. Yes.
Yeah.
2. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Great.
Comma 500. 2,662,500.
We were excited. We were so excited. We had all kinds of punctuation in there.
That's a good catch. Yeah. Thanks.
Congratulations for such a big number, you guys.
Yeah. Way to go.
Yeah, a lot of work in the towns and Don at the county level. It's a lot of work. So great job. Any other comments on the minutes? Okay. Need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thanks,
I'll
Steve.
second it.
Kara seconds. Any opposed? We'll assume silence is in favor. Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are adopted. Great. So let's jump in. The first thing is more good news. We have been notified that we've gotten approved for the grant application. And we will be, what are the next steps? What is the timing, Don? That's the question.
Yeah, I haven't received any official email from them yet, other than just the email blast newsletter that they sent out that had us listed. So I haven't received any more information on that. I assume,
Okay.
next step will be, they will send an email. There'll be some contracts signing
Right.
back and forth between us. Actual billable work won't till March 15th, but we can, there will obviously be some organizational discussion before that. So the first step is to actually form an official CAP committee. That's in the work plan, and that is up to the chairman of the board of supervisors to decide who sits on that committee, who is going to be, actually be doing the work. It can be task force members, county staff, any community representatives, or local elected officials. So it's pretty wide open who may actually sit on that, that decision-making committee.
Two questions. Do we know that the grant was awarded for the full 60,000? Has
That's
the amount been confirmed?
That's what the newsletter said. In the
Okay.
DEC newsletter, it said it was for $60,000. Yes. Yep.
And do we know, David, Don, how many, what the ideal number of members for this committee should be? And do either of you have any thoughts about this that I could take to the chairman of the board prior to his making any decisions about this?
Yeah, I don't know what the ideal number is, but it's I would guess not more than 10 is what I would say, just off the top of my head. You don't want it too big. And we haven't really done a lot of thinking. We could brainstorm right now a bit on who we might want to recommend. We did go through this process for the land use work specifically. So I'd like to consider some of those names for this larger group, but that doesn't cover everything. We need people that, ideally have, can represent the various sectors of the economy and the plan well. So I think we have a lot of good names for the land use piece. So buildings, transportation, energy infrastructure, be great to have some ideas there. We could start brainstorming now, and then we can follow up with by email if folks have more thoughts after this call. How does that sound?
And what would be the timeline for appointing the committee?
Well,
The sooner-
yeah.
The sooner the better. I mean, I would imagine in terms of process, we need to develop a scope of work for the consultant that we'll hire. Maybe more than one consultant, as we've talked about. There's the PR piece, kind of like really helping us with the not PR. I take that back. It's really communications and outreach. So it's helping us with stakeholder engagement. That facilitating that process. We could use some assistance. Of course, there's the primary piece, which is helping us to draft the CAP and integrating feedback as we go. I see this task force more in the kind of helping to develop the scope of work, helping to evaluate some of the proposals, helping to make a recommendation to the CAP committee on who we hire, and ultimately reviewing, helping to facilitate the stakeholder outreach, networking, getting people to meetings, and then maybe doing some discrete research in different areas, but then reviewing drafts and providing feedback. So I assume we can't put an RFP out until we have this CAP committee set up, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's the way we had it described in our proposal. So we form the CAP committee, and then they start developing RFP, looking for consultants, evaluating the proposals that come in. And then once we decide on a consultant, then dive right into the communication engagement strategy. And
Yeah. So I see this task force really is driving the whole thing. We need a subcommittee, some number of people from this task force, and then some other people. But I don't expect we're going to hire some chair of the CAP committee outside of here that's going to all of a sudden, pick up where we've and can carry it forward in an expeditious way. So, so I think in terms of like drafting the scope of work, preparing the RFP, we should really be thinking about that as our responsibility. We're not going to be able to put it forward officially until we have the cap. But I mean, I wouldn't want to wait 2 months for the cap committee. I wouldn't want to wait 2 months for the board to have approved this to get started on that work, because then we'll really be a bit behind. And we've already been doing so much work, as we'll talk about, with the land use and some other things. So, so Brenda needs names. She needs a list of people. Let's start with that, because we have to get that process going. And then we can talk about how we can support the kind of primary work that needs to happen before that cap committee gets stood up. Does that sound right? Okay. So Jennifer, go ahead, and Kara. Jennifer first.
I think earlier when I was hoping we could give a ballpark idea of when, by what date would we hope to have actually hired the consultant firm? Or I think earlier we talked about like June or July, just to help us think about, working backwards from there, how soon things need to happen. Was that about right, or should it be earlier than that?
Well, let's talk about how long, Brenda, how long do you think it'll take to get this cap committee authorized?
2 months, because it needs, Don, don't you agree? It needs to go to committee first.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
it will go to the full board.
Okay.
And committee meetings would be the week of February 10th, I think, would be the earliest. Because the committees meet, the week of the 17th, because the committees meet the week after the full board meeting.
And then the subsequent board meeting after the February committee meetings?
Would be March, the second Wednesday in March. So that
Okay.
would be the 12th also,
Okay.
the 12th.
So realistically, once this committee is formed, it'd probably take a few weeks to get a meeting scheduled with people. So we're probably looking at earliest the beginning of April till that group can meet, first couple weeks of April. And then ideally there's a schedule where they're meeting on a regular basis. Not ideally, they have to. And so if that's the process, and we can set them up with a scope of work and a draft RFP and an outline as to what we're trying to do, they're going to want to discuss that, and perhaps that, maybe the earliest they can get an RFP finalized from them would be maybe in May, if they meet in April and May, and then it can be issued. What's the process for? Will this committee be authorized once it's set up to actually put the RFP out, or does that have to go back to all of the board? I mean, that's pretty laborious.
Yes, but I believe that's the way it would have
Yeah,
to be
that's what I
done.
would think too.
Yeah, we could develop the RFP. We have, the county attorney has templates that we have to use in order to, write the RFP. But yeah, we would develop it, and that would have to, it would have to go again through the Board of Supervisors to get that
Yeah.
RFP approved.
Do you
And
think- Yep. Do you think the board would be okay? The Board of Supervisors would be okay with accepting an RFP for review concurrently with establishing this cap committee? As part of the process, like we could put forward by March or maybe by February, to the committees a scope of work and a draft RFP for them to review and approve, along with approving the cap committee.
Wouldn't you want the committee to actually be involved in defining that RFP?
And
I mean,
also,
yeah.
I think we have a previous experience that shows that the chairman is typically reluctant to undertake the construction of an RFP before the contract has been signed.
Right, before we
So-
have the grant. That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So that's what we're stuck with then. So then if we're on that timeline that I was describing before, then April maybe is the soonest that an RFP would come out of this cap committee. Maybe not even, May, maybe April or May. Then it goes back, so that would be the June meeting and the July meeting. So we're probably not going to get approval to even issue the RFP until the end of the summer, August. Right? It sounds that way, unfortunately. And how many years is this grant for? 2 years? It doesn't really matter. I mean, we'll spend
I
it.
think, yeah, the work plan is for 2 years, but we have, I believe it's a 5-year time limit if it takes
Yeah.
that long. I don't
I mean,
think it to take that long, but yeah.
No,
You
time
know, David, and as I'm thinking about this, I'm not sure, because this is a chairman's appointment, it may not go through committee. John, Don't you think? It's entirely possible, because this is within his scope of authority, that this may not go through committee at all. But it just, as we're talking about this, it makes me think that I think he's going to be reluctant to appoint a committee until the contract is signed.
Mhm.
It doesn't mean that we can't put the list together and meet with him to talk about the list and why it's important, but I don't think he'll do the official appointment until the contract is signed. So if
And
we're
if-
not doing anything until after March 15th, we're going to miss the March board meeting window.
Well, we're obviously going to move as fast as we possibly can, given the constraints of the process. But are there many, if any, precedents or examples where RFPs do not have to go through, the board? Does every RFP issued by the county go through the board through this
I think it
process?
has to, but I think it's a function of the procurement policy, don't you, Don? We
Yeah.
have a countywide procurement policy that defines how that work is conducted.
The county attorney is going to want to look it over.
Right.
And approve it. And yeah, there's a whole process that we have to follow. Yeah.
I
It'd be
think
good to
there's a lot of legwork that, there's plenty for us to be doing in the
I
meantime.
think so too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I think originally when we were envisioning this, we were saying ballpark, it wouldn't actually start until fall of 25. So I know we're all anxious, but these things take time. So I think it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can still put some thought into what we would like to see as a scope of work for a consultant and just like make suggestions. I don't see any problem with that, but it's, the official process would have to go through the appointed cap committee and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Okay, agree with all that. So, we let's get back to so that's the process more or less. I mean, we'll see how it plays out. We'll keep moving along as diligently as we can. Let's talk about ideas for people that we all think might be suitable to sit on this
Laura
committee.
has
Karen,
her hand up too.
had Hannah for a while.
No, that's okay. This is all really helpful information. I just want to throw something out there because, I'm not quite sure. I mean, there will be crossover on this, but, CLC is doing that countywide conservation plan that we're working on. And I'm assuming there'll be crossover. We've got stakeholders, I think about 12 towns already serving on that project. Does it make any sense to think about the same people for this group possibly, or at least some coordination, because some of that stuff does relate to what I would think what we'd be doing in a CAP program, right? Not everything, of course, but
Maybe, I don't know. I mean, we have a lot of things that probably fall outside the scope of
Yeah.
what the conservation plan is doing. I mean, this is the entire built economy as
Yeah.
well as land. So land is just a piece.
right.
Much larger. So I'm sure there should certainly be interaction, and maybe it's CLC or someone else that serves on this CAP to represent, some of those interests, but it's not going to cover everything.
Yeah, no, I figured that much, but I just wanted to mention that from the land perspective part, because it would be good to consider someone, and maybe it makes more sense to see if CLC would have somebody on recommended on portion. I don't know. I mean, I just want to throw that out there. That's all.
Right. Just as a matter of curiosity, what's the process? What's the timing of that whole process that CLC is?
Well, actually, and then one of the things I was going to mention later is we are having a virtual town hall. We've already got our consultant. We went through the whole RFP process to get our consultant for that project. We're doing a town hall on January 23rd. I sent Don a bunch of emails right before the meeting, but that's in the evening from 6 to 7:30. And that's really the first big public meeting. The first meeting we had was in December, and it was just with the stakeholders. So I think the plan we're going to be hopefully working on this over the summer. So we're going to be ahead, obviously, based on what you all just discussed about the timeline for this. But I'm wondering if maybe it just makes sense to just loop in CLC from time to time on that. I mean, I'm sure they know about it. What do you
Yeah.
think, Terrence? Hey, Terrence.
Hey, no, I agree. I also agree. I think they're kind of separate or different, kind of different focuses on that, on who should probably be brought into those conversations. But I think, our approach with the conservation plan was trying to reach out to every municipality in the county and kind of like the CART plans, trying to get as much of like cast as wide of a net so that we're getting as much stakeholder input as possible. And so I think kind of similar with CAT, I think that approach would be helpful. But then the question would probably be, is it, I think like for this, we specifically approached town supervisors and CACs.
Right.
And so it might be kind of a different target group of stakeholders, but I do think kind of taking our time to generate interest and call people into the conversation would be important.
Yeah, you're absolutely right with that. And I think we got about 12 municipalities to give stakeholders, which was pretty good. I mean, I know we have 22, but and we have other organizations that are stakeholders too. So I like the idea because then it makes everybody engaged in it. But I know it's hard to get people appointed.
Okay, well, it's helpful. We will definitely liaise with that process as it's relevant to both sides. But that's good. Thank you for January 23rd, 6 to 7:30. If you are interested in joining that, and pass the word on. Brenda.
So I just want to reference back to what Terrence said. A year and a half ago, we did the CART plan with Cornell, and then just 6 months after that, or about the time it was completed, the county undertook the update of its hazard mitigation plan with FEMA. There was a lot of overlap associated with those two projects. And because of that, the community engagement and feedback was significantly less on the second project because people felt they'd already been consulted or surveyed for that purpose. So I think Terrence is right, or Kara's right, that we really need to think about what the commonalities are and see if we can get the information in a way that doesn't fatigue the stakeholder groups or confuse the stakeholder groups.
That's a really good point, Brenda, because I remember when that happened and people on my committee was confused about, wait, we already did this, but it really
Right.
is.
Kara, what would be helpful is to understand what the breadth of I can try to join this town hall, and others should too, but what the breadth of the stakeholder community is in your process, in CLC's process. I think that would be the most instructive or easiest way to understand where that crossover is.
Okay.
So I don't know if you have a list or anything
I
like that.
do. Yeah. I want to make sure I have the updated one because there may have been some updates since the December meeting, which came before the holidays. So I'm actually, Sam Calhoun from CLC is the one spearheading that. But Terrence, you and I, my grammar was right there. Let's go ahead and we'll talk after this and reach out to Sam, and then we can give that information. Who should we send it to here? I know obviously David, but who else? And Don and Brenda,
If it's not sensitive, I would share it with just the whole group, and Don
Sure.
can send it out to everyone. And then, in terms of just everyone knows people, right? So it's just helpful, and it makes people more engaged in these conversations too. So I would try to keep it as wide as you can.
Sure, no problem.
If you have any description of the work, if there's an outline or anything that you can share, that would also be really helpful.
Yep, we'll do. I know that there's a link that I sent you, Don. That just is the basic link on CLC's website for the meeting. It's not very detailed. That's really going to be the meeting that will inform the public on what we're doing. But we did already have one meeting with consultants with the stakeholder groups. So I'll dig that up and see if I can come up with something with Terrence that's pretty, gives you an idea. And if not, maybe the 23rd meeting will, and that's open to the public. So you guys, I can actually put in the chat. I'll put a link to it.
Okay.
So you can have that. Okay.
Thank you, Kara and Terrence. Tara. Hi,
Hi,
Tara.
everybody. It's been a while. It's good to see all your faces.
Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, so I just wanted to remind everyone we're doing the presentation next month, if that's still on the calendar, for the CCAP. And just bringing that up as you start to talk about the task force and that kind of thing, because we're going to be overviewing our kind of sector strategies, which includes kind of the measure description as well as the authority to implement. And I think that'll give some really good advice as to who is going to be on the task force, because it'll kind of, not to say that you're going to have all of the same things as the regional climate action plan, but just some ideas of some measures that may likely be what the county is approaching, and then also the types of people that'll probably want to be involved in the process. So I think that'll hopefully be helpful as you guys just start to think about, who wants to be on this or who should be on this group.
Has that been scheduled yet,
Those are
Tara?
public.
It's scheduled, but can you share the date and the timing on all that?
No, well, actually, I think we were coming to this
This
meeting,
meeting.
right?
Oh,
This
I'm sorry. I
meeting,
thought you were talking about
Yeah.
a separate presentation. Yes. Okay,
yeah,
great.
no, that's, thank you, Brenda. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking about the meeting in next month's meeting with CDRPC as a follow-on to what we did, focusing on the land use piece. But you're saying it'll be a broader update on the whole cap that's been done.
It will be, yeah. We will definitely focus on the land use piece or hone in on that piece as well, because I know that's super important to you guys, but I think it's good to have an
Yeah.
overview of everything we're doing as well. So
It's great. It's great.
Tara,
Okay,
is
good.
that the same piece that's being presented at the NISAC conference on energy strategies or initiatives? Do you have any idea?
I don't think so. No, I
Okay.
don't think we're going to be at NISAC. That's probably a different thing, because this is just our regional plan.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. So anything else, just raise your hand on this. This is it's a little wide ranging, but it's a good general conversation to get grounded at the beginning of the year on kind of where we're at, where we're going, and all these other kind of pieces. But if maybe it's if folks have ideas now for people, names, organizations that you think would serve well on this CAP committee, then let's talk about them. If not, we can put them in the chat or email to me and Don, and we'll organize a list. And it sounds like we will have another meeting. Not sounds like, we will, before the February. Well, we're not sure whether it has to go to the committee, but either way, we'll have another meeting, I think, before we get this information to the chair of the Board of Supervisors or the committees or both, right? So we
So
can.
I just have one thought. To the extent that the county has any regional transportation, we do have we have a transportation committee, and Michael Shamides is head of that transportation committee. He's been the person that is most knowledgeable and has started to really formalize what regional transportation looks like and how we might engage the problem of regional transportation in a rural area. So I don't know if that's useful, but that's a name, Don, I don't know, it pops to my mind.
That's a good name. I mean, he's knowledgeable on a bunch of fronts.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Any other ideas popping into people's heads? Feel free to share them now or later. All right. We'll work on a list, and please just give your suggestions. And then we'll bring that back to this group next month, and we can go through it and have a more robust discussion. People have had a chance to think about it. What do people think in terms of the optimal number? I mean, what are we aiming for here? And
Yeah, you mentioned 10 day for the
That
committee.
seems big.
That sounds big to me too. Yes. I think rather than the number of people on the committee, I just think we really need people who are going to be able to commit to the time.
yeah,
So, that would be my, first, elimination point. Are you going to be able to make the meeting however often? It may not be monthly, maybe it's, every other month or quarterly, but make sure that anyone who's, appointed to the committee is going to be able to make the meetings, whether that's 5 or 7 or whatever
Don,
number it is.
I don't want to put you on the spot. We can wait on this, but if you feel like you can, could you kind of walk through, if not now, we'll do it later, kind of what the role, as far as you kind of recall some of the details of what the role of this committee is in our work plan? You can punt if it's not something you're ready to talk about. In the meantime, Jennifer, why don't you, we'll give you a break there.
Well, I was just going to say that when our subcommittee on land use meets next, we can talk a little bit about just having a representative from that group be involved, because I know I personally can't commit to being on another committee. I've just got too much going on right now, but there are ways in which we might be able to report to the committee on things without having to be on the committee. So we can talk about that when we have our next subcommittee meeting.
And we put together, on that point, we put together a land use advisory group idea for this, because, I think we want to have, there's a CAP committee kind of helping to run the process. Then there's, we're providing feedback, this task force. But then if it fits and we can handle it, the idea of trying to get a group of interested stakeholders, not just, ad hoc, but really reaching out to people. And we put together a good list. So from that list, maybe there are 1 or 2 people. But I agree with you, Don. It doesn't need to be a huge group, and it's really more of an administrative, functional kind
Right.
of task.
And just
than it
thinking
is-
about the role, I think it's really just signing off on work progress is
Yeah.
really the main role. Is we'll probably have subcommittees like the land use subcommittee, transportation subcommittee, different smaller groups making recommendations on niche items. But the CAT committee is just taking it all in, reviewing any of the work products we come up with, drafts of documents, just making sure that they agree with everything and to move forward to the next steps. That's really what I see the CAT committee doing.
Right.
I don't see them having to meet every single month. I'm thinking every other month, or maybe even 4 times a year, whatever that is.
Right. More of the substantive work is coming out of these either subcommittees or outreach that we're doing to specific stakeholders and groups of stakeholders to generate ideas and get feedback. So really, we're thinking about this CAP, maybe it's less of a representation of the stakeholder groups and more of like who ideally needs to be involved to help make this work smoothly. What representatives from the Board of Supervisors, for example, and Michael is an example of that. Maybe that's sufficient. Maybe we also need someone else. And what other, someone from, at least one person from this task force, obviously. But what other organizational, what other entities or individuals from an administrative standpoint would be important. And let's keep talking about that. And I'm sure between now and the next meeting, we'll have a clear idea. So I think we can move along unless anyone has any other thoughts. So the land use subcommittee, we've been making good progress here. We're meeting again next Thursday. We've got a couple updates for folks, which I think are really exciting. As we talked about at our last meeting with the regional folks, there's a lot of interest there in innovating on this piece and really bringing new approaches and more sophisticated approaches, because the ones that exist that are the kind of currently used approaches are pretty broad and generic. So Jennifer, love to get a quick update on, or just a reminder for people as to the scope that, what you're working on or leading up with this kind of pilot project on the ag side. And then Don and I can give a quick update on what progress we've made on the forest side.
Okay, great. I'll keep it short because not a whole lot has happened. I mean, I've started working on refamiliarizing myself with the Comet Farm model, which is the USDA approach to estimating greenhouse gas emissions at the farm level. And I've used it in the past. They've updated all the software, so I'm diving back in. and starting to get thinking through how I might use it. I'll have 8 graduate students in a course this spring that are going to spend the first half of the semester really working pretty deeply with the model. And, there's 2 objectives there. One is to actually estimate the last 5 years of greenhouse gas emissions from current practices in the county. We're just limiting it to field crops because of the limitations of the model. And then also generating some potential, like if farmers adopted these other practices, what would the change in emissions or the ability to sequester carbon look like? So this afternoon, we're meeting with Jim Yanger again. Actually, a couple of us from the subcommittee are meeting with him to get a little bit deeper dive into what tools were used and what tier 1 approaches were used in the current greenhouse gas inventory at the regional level. And then I want to talk with him in a little bit more detail about the pros and cons of COMET as a potential tool for some of the work that he's looking at doing to try to automate some of this in the future. I think there's big limitations of using COMET for that. But anyway, so we're going to, he and I think primarily will be trying to dig into the modeling details because he knows a little bit about the model himself. But a few others from the subcommittee are going to join in that discussion. So we'll report back next time. And of course, our subcommittee will meet again a week from today. So we'll be able to dig into that a little bit more too.
Yeah, that's really great. And what you're doing with the students is great. The vetting of this model and instead of, we don't have a lot of money for this piece. I think it was $5,000. So it's not like we can go out and hire some big consultant. But the other thing is that, we have to find that consultant. It's not a random consultant. We're developing these collaborative approaches now with the folks who are working on this. And that's how this work's going to get done, like what you're doing with Jim and the further research you're doing and what Don and I have started to communicate with the CAFRE folks, which we'll talk about now. And the good news is a lot of that really isn't us hiring a big expensive consultant. It's just putting our time in to collaborate. And we'll try to use that limited amount of money as needed. So thanks, Jennifer. It's really great progress. Don, you want to give a quick review on our conversation with CAFRE and remind folks what CAFRE is?
Yes. So we've been talking to Colin Beer at SUNY ESF. He runs what's called the Climate and Applied Forest Research Institute there, CAFRE. And from our conversations, he sounds pretty eager to work with us as a sort of a sandbox or a test case for improving their forest carbon sequestration model that they put together statewide. And Colin is, I don't know how to describe him, but he is like top tier guru status sort of, he really knows his stuff. And some of what he is, he sends an email and I have to kind of read it 2 or 3 times to make sure I'm understanding what he's saying. He's sort of that kind of a guy, but really great, a really great resource that he's willing to work with us on this forest analysis. So they have statewide layers that show forest cover, not just cover, but actually tree canopy height. So they can calculate the amount of carbon, above ground carbon and below ground carbon in the soils for the state for every year from 1990 to 2023. And he has said that he will take that statewide layer, clip it to Columbia County, supply all those layers to us so they can look at that and analyze that in any way that might be helpful. They are also working on a shrubland land cover layer, which they have developed it for 1 year. It's a little more difficult because the LiDAR elevation data has to have a higher resolution in order to measure changes in shrubland cover because it does, we're looking at differences of less than a meter rather than, tree canopy is, 60, 100 feet or whatever it is. But they think that is a very important part of their measuring and modeling carbon sequestration in forests because does the shrubland stay shrubland for some reason, or is it going to eventually grow into forests? So another unique aspect of Columbia County is we have 2 different years of that high resolution LiDAR data from 2016 and 2022. So he was kind of excited to hear that. And they can measure, the changes in the shrubland elevation between that 6-year period and try to identify, well, these are shrublands that will eventually grow up into forest. So we can, maybe concentrate on protecting those areas or managing them so that they will grow up into forest land and sequester as much carbon as possible. So he's going to supply the last email, the gist of it was he's going to supply all of that data to us, and is sounds anxious that he would like to use Columbia County as a sort of a test sandbox to explore and improve some of their shrubland layer models, and then be able to take that and apply it statewide again. A couple of things that that this fits in with what we've been talking about with CDRPC. Todd and Jim last month they also mentioned that because we were doing this kind of work that they were kind of looking forward to maybe incorporating this into what is the statewide protocol because they're doing kind of the same thing. How do we look at this land cover data and granularize it into so that towns and villages can use it as well as the county. Soon ESF is looking at it too, looking to Columbia County. How can we help them improve their data so they can use it as a statewide layer. So it's starting to gel in my head. I know we've been talking about this land use stuff for a few months now, but I think it's starting to come, and my understanding is starting to come together on how we might be able to use this. And I think it fits in with the Terrence's project with the this would be a great thing to be able to identify forests around the county, shrublands around the county that would provide the most bang for the buck as far as protection concerns. We have a lot of state-owned land. I said that before. We have a lot of state-owned land that they have wildlife management programs. Are they, maybe they will change some of their plans or incorporate some climate change aspects to their plans so they may want to preserve or enhance the health of the forest and the lands that they own. So it's starting to gel in my mind about how we might put all these things together.
Yep. Thanks, Don. It's very exciting, and I think we're really homing in on where we're going to go with all this before we were even starting, which was the whole point. Why is it? I mean, I know there's some hands up, but just one thing I want to add here. Why is it so important that we understand the distinction between shrubland and forest, true forest that's growing in a more healthy way? From a carbon standpoint, I think it's obvious. I mean, what's causing that shrub layer and why is it so relevant in Columbia County? We have so many forests impacted by deer, preventing regeneration, natural regeneration. There are other problems with tree species that are being lost at large scale, and maybe regeneration is not happening. It's inhibited through that transition, or it's slow. So if we can see from 2016 to 2022, and then again in 6 years or 10 years, whether those shrubland areas throughout the county and beyond are are actually growing. They're actually turning into forests, or they're remaining mainly invasive species that are preventing that regeneration along with the deer predation on saplings, then that tells a much different story about our carbon potential and our ecological potential and the health overall of our ecological, these ecologically important areas. And it also helps us, because it's mapped, it helps us really figure out where we should be working from a conservation standpoint and from a restoration standpoint. That not all these areas are created equal, and I think that that's where we want to end up, which is trying to really direct our resources and get the biggest bang for our buck, as Don said. So having this kind of quantitative data at this scale that could not only help us solve that problem, but also maybe inform a broader effort throughout the state is very exciting. Very exciting. We have to pretty much double the amount of carbon we're sequestering in our forests in the next 30, 40, 50 years to meet the state's climate goals. So this is a huge task, and this is a piece of it. So I think Brenda was next, and then Jennifer, and then Kara.
So this is kind of a follow-up to what you said, David. Don, will the data be able to differentiate between native and invasive species on the shrubland piece?
He said to some extent, because things like the honeysuckle, their leaves, they keep the leaves on the plants for extended period of time, so they may be able to identify things like that. But yeah, I won't know until actually they send me the data and see what kind of attributes that are included in the different layers. Get a better answer after that.
Jennifer?
Yeah, I guess my question is similar. I mean, the model, that super quick one that we got through ICLEI, kind of does the same thing, and I was wondering if one of our concerns was that if it doesn't really help us understand the kind of condition of the forest in terms of invasives and other issues, that seemed like an important piece of the puzzle. And my impression from reading the literature on this CAFRE model was that it does go a lot further in that respect in terms of species composition and stuff. So, but what you just now talked about sounded kind of like the ICLEI one. So I don't know. Can you say anything quickly about what the
Well, I think
are beyond the original, just kind of standing biomass?
one of the primary differences with this CAFRE thing is that they incorporate LiDAR data into it, so they can actually measure not just types of land cover, but actually tree canopy height.
So it's better at the total biomass.
Yes,
number.
yes. So
Okay.
they've actually gone through and measured. So every location they actually can actually measure how much biomass is in that particular pixel.
Okay.
30 by 30 pixel, and over a period from 1990 to 2023 for every single year, we can look at it and see if it's going in a positive direction or a negative direction, or is it going up and down. And he did in our talk, he did explain that they've done some work trying to identify the difference between forest loss due to insect infestation versus harvesting. So they've done a little bit of that too. I don't know if that's something that they will be able to provide for Columbia County, but they have been experimenting with that. Yeah.
Kara?
Just a quick question on the timing of this, Don, and this data. When are you expecting? And because I'm just trying to coordinate with CLC on the conservation plan, because that is really very relevant. So
I think as soon as I reply to his last email, he'll start sending me the stuff
Okay.
I have. Yeah.
Okay, so Terrence, we'll go ahead and keep in touch on that too. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. Thomas.
Yes, sorry, I apologize that my camera is not working, but I am here. Don, I'm just curious, all of this information that's being collected sounds like it's fixed. In other words, it's historically what's been there. But is there any projections that the group is using for climate change, which is very dynamic? So there are perils that Columbia County will be subject to, that flooding, fire, heat. So are they considering any of those things and what the effect will be on the vegetation?
I don't recall him mentioning that. No, Tom. I think it's just measuring what, it's more of an inventory.
I think they can take the inventory and if this three-dimensional data tells us something about age structure of the forest, and if there's some indication of species, hardwood, softwood, they can start distinguishing the projections of carbon sequestration. The model itself, as far as I understand, doesn't build in other kind of climate or extreme weather events and how that might affect forest carbon over time, if that's the question. So
the
I don't
question's
think-
it's a little bit broader. And I realize you're concentrating on carbon, and it's very valuable to have the base information. You can't get anywhere without the base information. But my question is, there are groups out there that are analyzing projections. For instance, will you be able to still grow maple trees in this part of the country? So those major questions, using this base, will you be able to do GIS overlays of this other information? I
think they're two different things that are both very important, what you're saying, Tom. But just to distinguish, I mean, as far as I understand it, there's the carbon tracking, both historic, current, and projections on what type of how land use change, forest growing, agriculture over time will change based on different practices and different intervention from a carbon standpoint. But then there's the climate change's impacts on forests and what species are going to thrive. For forests, there is a climate atlas that the Forest Service has put out, which does talk about, it goes through all of the major species in the eastern forests. And you can go down to a county level or a local level, and you can then assess the climate adaptability of all the different species. And we were just talking about this yesterday. Sugar maple was considered not, because you mentioned it, not adaptive. And they've done something to the model. Now it looks like it's better. So that's good news. But that is something that I would look at if you're interested in species adaptation based on weather changes. And that's primarily what it is. There are other ways of looking at how pests and diseases are spreading and what impacts those are going to have. I think we can easily reference these things in our CAP and talk about them. And there are probably many other examples of ways in which, whether quantitative or qualitative approaches to measuring or monitoring and being aware of how changes that are happening and projected to happen will affect species composition, will affect how we farm, how we grow our forests, and what we should be doing to adapt over time. So it's a great point, Thomas. Thank you for raising that. And I think that gets to how we end up writing this out and what references and what information we bring forward and how we engage stakeholders to get at some of these questions that you're raising that are broader.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, let's move on. I think the rest of the meeting will go pretty quickly because we're just giving updates mainly, but I think we're set. We'll keep everyone informed on that. And as a reminder, next month, we are going to be having a presentation, as Tara said, on the state of the regional climate action planning process. So that tune in for that. Don, you want to give us a quick update on the NYSERDA grant status?
Yeah, really the only update I have is that we have received, I talked to the folks at NYSERDA. Tara was on the call. I think it was yesterday or the day before, whatever it was. And We will be getting the contract for our last grant that we qualified for $412,500 to follow through with some energy efficiency upgrades at 401 State Street. We have to sign the contract. The energy audit has to be completed. From that energy audit, we will be able to pick and choose which projects we want to work on that will add up to at least $412,500. Could be lighting upgrades from fluorescents to LEDs. Could be replacement of these leaky windows. Other insulation, building envelope improvements, better doors, better windows, better insulation, that kind of thing. So
Great.
That's where we are with that. That's our last one that we qualified for our NYSERDA Clean Energy Communities program.
Great. Thanks, Don. Okay. Don, you want to take the next one too? That's
Yeah, I'm going to try. Yep. I just want to mention I've been working on, let me see if I can. I've only sent this to Dave so far, but I would like to send it out to everyone. Can everyone see that? I've been working on a progress report and roadmap for progress report from 2024 and a roadmap for 2025. It's one of the things that I'm supposed to do. It's outlined in the bylaws, so I thought I would just put something together since it's kind of at the end of the NYSERDA CEC program. I thought I would move back over to the Climate Smart Communities program, looking at some of the actions that we've completed since the last time. It's been a while since I've really kind of looked at everything we've done and compiled it into a list. So just kind of assembling this little report here. And looking at the Climate Smart Communities program, I had been following, tracking our actions there as much as the Clean Energy Communities program, because NYSERDA is where the money is. It didn't look like we were, even going to come close to qualifying for the silver certification level. But now that we have this climate action plan available to us, that's worth a lot of points. So adding everything up, it looks like, it may be possible, over the next few years, once we complete the climate action plan, it may be possible that we would qualify for silver certification status. We need to gain at least 300 points for that. You can see in this little chart here, I've kind of added up what I think we could get out of it. It adds up to 303. So it's pretty close anyway.
and what?
Yep.
Just going to say, if you share this with everyone, that would be great. Would you like? I assume you want feedback, if anyone has any. What are you looking for?
Yes.
Specific
Yeah, I'll send this out to everyone after the meeting today. It outlines all the points and the grants that we got from the CEC program. It kind of analyzes a lot of the Climate Smart Communities actions. Why I think we might be able to gain some points from that, or might some of the difficulties. But really, it's what I would like to add to it in particular is maybe some sort of local task force perspective. What have you all done? My writing tends to be kind of technical and not as flowery as some others. So if someone wants to add a little bit to this, I would add like a paragraph to any local task force that wants to include some of the things that you've accomplished over the last year. So that might be one way to add to it. But I will share this any edits you want to make to it, additions you want to make, things that you want to mention, I can
Great.
easily plug this into that.
Thanks, Don. I mean, this is a great work, really proactive. I didn't even know that, you were going to be doing this. And then all of a sudden I got an email with like, hey, I've done this. That's amazing. And there's so much work that it's documenting. So it's important historical document, and then looking forward as well. Quick question. If we get silver, it's great bragging rights, but does it actually unlock any tangible benefits other than that?
Well, in the previous, correct me if I'm wrong, Tara, in the previous CEC program, I think there were points that we gained for getting silver status.
Yep.
And in any other, like the CAP grant that we applied for, we would have gained more points toward that if we were actually silver status. And who knows what this next iteration of the Clean Energy
Right.
Communities grant program, maybe there will be some money if we gain. I don't know. So that's kind of an open question there.
Yep. Brenda.
I think that one of the deliverables that the county had in mind when they founded this task force was the sharing of information and how the work of the county task force would spill over into the local communities as, kind of a frame for how to get this work done. So I think, Don, that should, kind of be the segue to the local community work, is how this information sharing and working collaboratively has spilled over into other communities.
Right. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Thank you, Don. And please share that, and love to hear what people think. Steve, you have an update on the Flood Resilience Network?
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, great job, Don. And I think that you actually get points by completing that annual report as well. So that's good. But, and I'd be happy to put in something if you want about our efforts to get silver as well in there, that would help. Yes, the Hudson Valley Flood Resilience Network, I was going to suggest that this body, I guess, recommend to the county to join it. It's completely free. I will put in the chat a link to it. It's basically a clearinghouse for flood-related information, mitigation efforts among all the Hudson Valley partners in it. There's, I think, maybe 4 other counties who are involved. Ankrum is a member, Hudson, and I think New Lebanon are the only 3 in the county who are. Again, no cost for anything. They have annual one in-person meeting and numerous workshops that they do online as well. So I think it would be good for the county to join, and any other town, certainly. You can check out the link there and see what's relevant.
Yeah, it's a nice long list of, if you look at the members page, long list of towns and counties all around us.
Yeah.
So that's
And
great.
it's also, DEC is a sponsor, as well as a lot of Cornell programs, and who else? Hudson. Where is it?
Mm-hmm.
The Hudson River Estuary Program.
I guess the question, Steve, is my first question is, this looks great. What is the expectation about joining? I know it's free, but what is our who will participate? I mean, it's fine to join, put our name on there if the county wants to do that, but what would we potentially have someone kind of tracking what's happening and participating? I would need I think a volunteer to do that. And I think that would make a stronger pitch for doing it, that, let's join, and Steve Powers or someone else will, track the work and bring to the county's attention what we're learning through it or something like that.
Yeah, I think it would probably be someone like Don or someone else at the, not a volunteer. That's just my impression,
Right.
for at the county level. But I represent the town from my side, and I'm also a town board member, but I joined it from the CSC side originally. So,
This, I imagine, goes to the if we make a recommendation, it would go to the board to decide whether to join it. And then I think if we could articulate what would be gained and what would be expected, we need a representative, someone to participate, and this is why it would be beneficial. I mean, we have a lot of groups that this would cross over into. I mean, there's a whole hazard mitigation plan. I don't know what group of people are involved in that work on an ongoing basis. Of course, Don and others. So, Brenda, do you have any thoughts on this?
I actually was thinking about the hazard mitigation plan because the engineers should have a draft of that plan in January or February. And there are representatives from all of the towns that are participating in that planning process. And I think that's being run by emergency management. So I think there is a crossover with the emergency management and the hazard mitigation plan. But I think it falls into the two disciplines that are most obvious to me are planning, which is Don, and or emergency management, because the difference between this hazard mitigation plan update and prior plans is supposed to be, the substantial difference is supposed to be to include climate related changes to the landscape and how to prepare and respond to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Prepare for and respond to them.
Steve, have
So-
you had any? Sorry, go ahead.
No,
Steve, have you had any conversations with anyone in the? Sorry, Brenda, what is that department? It's emergency response or emergency management.
yeah, I think that probably would be the most appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder about engaging the folks there, and before we make a recommendation, I'm not trying to put it off at all. This sounds really important, just to kind of get buy-in and and show them what, that if they're not aware of this, put it on their radar, and then we can bring it up as a recommendation if for the county to join at
Mhm.
that point. What do you think?
and also maybe it could be a resource in the directory, the plan itself. The plan is supposed to have a resource list. So this might be, something for, that should be included in that resource list.
Mhm.
Is
Yeah.
anybody on this call, is anybody else on this call a member of that planning effort? I know that I am, but I don't know if anybody else is. Because
You're talking about the Hudson Valley Flood Resilience Network?
No, the Columbia
That's-
County Emergency
Oh,
Hazard Mitigation Plan update.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, I am as well.
Hanukkah's, yeah.
Okay, so Steve, then I've forgotten the name of the gentleman that sends out all of our emails, not the engineering company, but I can look it up. He works for Dave Harrison. I can't remember his name. But
Right.
Yeah, so we could speak with him about this resource and how it might be employed.
The Henry Schwartz, is that who you're thinking?
Yes, Henry.
Sports, there you go. So,
Yeah, so maybe you can report back in a month on some of those conversations, and then it'll be a stronger recommendation for us to make at that point for the county to join. Does seem to make sense.
so Brenda, were you suggesting reaching out to him, to Henry about?
Yeah.
this? Okay,
I think so.
Okay.
And I think also, as we look at the draft, Steve, what we should see is how many towns in Columbia County list this as one of their concerns. Flood resiliency is one of their concerns, and make sure that they have access to this resource as well.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah.
Great.
Okay. So I'll
Thank you,
follow up.
Steve.
Sure.
Okay. Tom, you have your hand up, and also you're next on the on the agenda for the greener home improvement legislation.
Okay, yeah, I just have a question for Steve. When you look on the FEMA maps and you look at Columbia County, there's a number of gaps. In other words, it hasn't, that large areas that haven't been analyzed by the National Flood Insurance Program. So that means you're just simply not a part of it. So I made inquiries to both FEMA and New York State DEC, and it turns out it's voluntary. The municipality can voluntarily join the NFIP, and there's a whole process to do that. And then you have to, once you do join, you're accepted, then you have to follow flood mitigation or flood regulations. The municipality would have to institute following these flood regulations. So my question is, do you know any other municipality in Columbia County that has gone through this process? So you just have some idea how to go about it? Because in my mind, if you're not even on the flood map, that's a base point. So you at least need to be there, and then that opens the door. Should you need some type of mitigation, that opens the door to solving this problem.
To answer your question, no, I don't know other towns that have done it. I do know that those maps are so outdated. They date back to, I mean, officially they're 1986, but they actually did it in the 70s and released them in the 80s. So when we contacted FEMA, they said they had no plans to update in the short term. So I don't know when that's going to happen. But I know they are doing some in Rensselaer County.
Okay, so in my conversations with New York State DEC, I don't have the gentleman's name in front of me. He said, yes, what you just said is true, but if you want to accelerate, in other words, you think your municipality is at risk, you can officially, voluntarily do this, and there's a process. He said New York State DEC would help. I just was wondering if any other towns in Columbia County have done that. Obviously, towns like Philmont, which is very hilly terrain with dense development, with water coursing running through it, that sounds to me that's a potential risk that should be looked at. So that.
Tom, there's actually, this is Tara from CDRPC. That's actually an action that communities can do in the Climate Smart Communities program to get points for. So I just quickly pulled up to see who else had submitted that action in the program. Nobody actually in the capital region, including Columbia County, but the town of, I'm going to say this wrong, Shandaken in Ulster County has done it. So I don't know anybody there, but you know, just something to reference. Also some towns out east, the city of Canandaigua and the town of Amherst in Erie County have done that. So just a point of reference, it's not too popular in the program, but there are communities doing it that could probably share experience.
Great, thank you, Tara. So we won't be guinea pigs. Someone else has done it already. Great, thank you.
All right, Tom, to move things along, you wanted to give us a quick update on the greener home improvement legislation. You're up.
Yeah, okay. So just very quickly, this was legislation that was sponsored by Dee Barrett, and it was signed by the governor just a few weeks ago. What it does is if you're making, this is for both residential and business properties, if you are making sustainable improvements under certain categories, for instance, solar panels is one of the categories on your property, you can have an exemption for the value of that sustainable measure from your property tax. But the municipality has to pass legislation that it will do that. So it's, again, in the Philmont case, that would be the village and the town of Claverack We have to pass that legislation, but the county also has taxes, so that's why I thought it should be brought up at the county level. If this would be legislation that the county would consider.
So Tom, is it a one-time tax exemption? Is it a exemption from sales tax? How's the value calculated and how is it factored into the tax?
Okay, so it's the whatever the state tax office. It's through the state tax office, and it goes through the appraisal system. So every municipality updates its appraisals. If these measures get included in the appraisal, then they can be exempted from the values, similar to the way a veteran gets an exemption from property tax. I think some seniors can get an exemption from property tax. It would run like that, and that's why it has to go through the tax department.
So it's a permanent, I'm sorry, it's
Yes.
a permanent exemption that's calculated every year for a one-time expenditure?
It sounds like it's based on the increase in the assessed value based on work you might do on your house. So if you put an extension in your house,
Right.
your value, they have a permit pulled, they know what that generally that is, and then your assessment usually goes up. So it sounds like if this was to be a sustainable improvement and deemed that way, however that's defined, maybe that assessment doesn't go up, or it doesn't go up as much. So it would affect your overall tax rate because your assessed value isn't as high. It sounds like that's what it is. I'm not sure.
Right, but property taxes don't take into account the type of heating or cooling system, which is, or the type of insulation in your walls, or whether you've
Right.
got insulated windows, double or triple glazed windows. They don't, none of that's factored into your property value. That's why I'm trying to understand it.
Right. So this is a New York State-wide legislation. So in some municipalities, it does count, but in Columbia County, as far as I know, those types of things do not count.
Right,
However, if you're putting in solar panels, there are many municipalities in Columbia County where you have to get a permit. So that means it's going listed somewhere. So I'll send Don. I can send you the copy of the bill
Mhm.
that was signed, so you can distribute it to everyone, and that may clear up some of the questions.
Great.
thank you so
Tom,
much.
Be great.
yeah. And if there's even better than the legislation itself, if anyone like an advocacy group that was supporting it or anyone else has put together a fact sheet that people could quickly look at and understand to see the relevance, then we can dig deeper. If you have any of that, that would be great. Terrence, you're up. You may not have much to report in addition to what you've already reported, which is good stuff. Anything else from CLC, Terrence?
Not at the moment. Yeah, I think the countywide conservation plan is really the focus in terms of what would overlap with this work right now. And like Kara said, we've had kind of a small group kickoff in December, but the public meeting's coming up on the 23rd.
Great. So that is, thanks for that update. That's an exciting project. The next on the list is Christina had to jump off. So she wanted us to let you know that February 1st, 10 to noon, Volusia Town Hall Gym. They're doing Northern Columbia County Energy Efficiency Program. And that just sorry, I'm trying to read the email here. She just sent. Find out about programs and habits that can reduce your energy bills and environmental impact. Representatives from the Columbia Opportunities Weatherization Program, Office of the Aging, Capital Region Clean Energy Hub, Heat Smart Capital Region, utility companies, heat pump installers, and more will present. So this is part of a long series that they've been running, and there's another one. So spread the word. February 1st, Volusia Town Hall Gym, 10 to noon, 10 a.m. to noon. Thank you, Christina. And Laura. I think you're still on mute, Laura.
Yeah, there is a meeting that we're doing tomorrow that is at 1:00. So if anyone's interested, Christina has contact Christina if you want to join. because we're going to have a Zoom, which is one of the, another planning meeting for this event that's happening in Volusia. And I think she also mentioned in the chat that she had posters that she was going to give you to distribute or to, share with everybody, so that if people wanted to post it, that would be great too. We have a lot of people interested in coming. We announced it at the winter walk that we had in December. So we're hoping to get a good group. And again, if anyone else wants to be part of it, contact Christina and she will have you invite you to join the meeting tomorrow at 1. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Next, I don't know if Cornell CCE has any updates.
No, Lindsay was out of the office, and I don't see anyone else from Cornell on the call.
Okay. And that's any other updates? Now's the time. We do, Don, you pointed out we have vacancies.
Yes, we have vacancy in Ankrum, Greenport, Chatham Village, and I believe we have Jamie. You still on the call here? We have a appointment that looks like it's going to happen next month. Jamie Carreno Nordenstrom from Hillsdale is in the process of being appointed. And Jamie, I think there was something happening in Hillsdale with a charging station. Do you have any updates on that? You can hear me? No?
Maybe next time.
Yeah. Well, they
okay.
are. Well, oh, her mic is off. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, she can't turn it on. Anyway, they're looking at a DC fast charger in Hillsdale. They've applied for a grant, so that looks like they're making. Oh, there you are. I can hear you now.
Yeah,
Jim.
hi, John. Sorry
There you
about
go.
that. So actually, the board just approved our NYSERDA contract. So I think we're utilizing the 100K NYSERDA designation grant money for a 2-port fast charger that we'll be scoping now with NYSEG.
Great. That's exciting.
Yeah, I think, was Philmont pursuing a fast charger as well?
No.
Yes, we were looking into it as a public-private partnership with Cumberland Farms, and we're still in process of doing that.
Okay. Yeah, we have municipally owned property on Route 2023 and Route 22. So we were in a good position to do this, but it's still going to require significant scoping. So
That's great. I mean, that's a good spot.
yeah, I think it's the only other fast charger in Columbia County besides the Tesla charger at the bridge and the destination charger in Hudson, right?
Yeah, I mean, the only other fast charger I know of is that Tesla charger. So
Right. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Tom?
Yes, Jamie, are you going through involving the New York Power Authority?
We did reach out to them as part of the initial scoping for even the grant application.
Any success?
I mean, I don't, why, what do you mean by that?
Well, so it seems that they work mostly in urban areas, but I believe they are working on one right off the Taconic going into Hudson. I believe they were involved in that one. So I'm getting mixed messages with how the New York Power Authority gets involved.
Okay, and how do you think the New York Power Authority needs to be involved?
Well, they're a significant partner in dealing with the utility and various other requirements. So if you can get them on board, it helps a lot.
Okay, I didn't actually realize that. I mean, I think we were forwarded that some contact, I mean, that was many months ago now. But from my understanding from actual installers, we contact NYSEG ourselves for the feasibility study. And I believe that NYSEG will, help us along with it as well.
Great. Okay. Well, that's significant.
So, well, thank you, Jamie. Looking forward to having you join the task force, and good work there in Hillsdale. Good luck with that.
Oh, thank you.
That's exciting. Any other updates before we part for the month?
I have a couple for Copay.
Thanks, Sarah. Go ahead.
We are actually doing our own energy efficiency presentation next Saturday, January 18th. So we will not be competing with Valacia's because we'll be in the southern part of the county. So it's all good stuff. But if you can all advertise that too, Don, I sent you the details on that to put on the calendar. We've already distributed a bunch of flyers and information about it, and that's at Copake Town Hall, 10 a.m. next Saturday. And we're having speakers, Fiona Hines and Dana Grover, to talk about all different kinds of issues. We also are working on some programs in March and April on an overall general program for trees and maintenance and caring and planting and whatnot. We'll give you more details later. And then we're doing a Beyond Plastics program in April. I already mentioned to you the countywide conservation program. Also, we got our CEC funds, and we're working on probably using those for audits in the town garage and rec center. So I think that covers most of what Copake's up to, but we got a lot of balls up in the air now, which is kind of fun.
Go Copake. Elizabeth.
Yeah, I just wanted to update on Taconic. As you're aware, we also got a DEC grant for a culvert replacement, which is really great. We're happy about that. And we are also our CSC is putting together a program with a bunch of presentations. We're calling it The Forest in Your Backyard. Will Yandick is going to head off the first of our talks. Troy Weldy is going to head off the next one. It's kind of about what to do with the forest in your backyard. So it kind of ties into a lot of the things that we're talking about, but it's also about what a landowner can actually do with their own forest. So it's very cool. And the cherry on all of this is that we've actually got Doug Tallamy lined up as one of the speakers in this program, probably this fall. So we haven't actually pinned down a date on that, but we are going to start promoting the first two events, the first of which is going to be February 8th. So we'll have some promotional stuff to be sending around. Don, I'll send you something to put up. So we're excited about that.
Go Taconic. That's exciting. Thank you. Tom.
Yes, just a quick update on Philmont. We're just in the process of signing the NYSERDA contract for the $100,000 grant that would go towards the geothermal system for the Village Hall. The Village Hall will hopefully be the first net zero retrofit Village Hall, and that's our goal. And that kickoff with those consultants is occurring in about a week. To do their walkthrough, all of the measures involved to make this a net zero retrofit of a 1970s era building. But we did get the grant to go towards the geothermal component.
Great. Good work, everyone. Any other updates?
I just have one quick question. The 2.6 million that's already come back to the county, I'm assuming has been contracted and completed. It sounds like we've got several six-figure grants that are coming in or under contract in recent days. When will that figure be updated? I mean, I think I've heard $300,000-$400,000, contracts that are being signed and worked on now. So it sounds like we're at least over 3 million, and we might be more than that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, because we've got the county's 4,400,000, we're well over 3 million.
So that's Tara. Do you have any idea I know Hallie was adding up the numbers the last I talked to her, but I don't know if she's going to have a.
I'm gonna have to
New-
check. I'll have to look and see. Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think it should be updated, but you're right. It may not include the most recent numbers. So I can get that to you though. Who should I send that to? Do you Don or?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. All right, great.
Because I know Canaan and New Lebanon both received grants of 100, 110 too. So, and now I see Hillsdale got 110. So that's, it's starting, that's a nice chunk of change.
Yeah, we got 250,000.
So
All
way to
right.
go, team.
Keep rolling, folks. 2025, keep rolling. Let the momentum build. Thanks all for a very productive call. We'll continue and we'll look forward to seeing everyone at the normal time. First Thursday of February next month. We'll be back on. And if you have any thoughts on that CAP committee, just let Don and I know, representatives, and sounds like a lot of other follow-up and information. So have a great day, guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
Eric. Bye.
Bye.
Everybody.
Shit.